So I heard you don't know how to do makeup. Let's fix it. Today's topic is picking the foundation concealer that's perfect for you and how to use it. I have a few friends lately who have been like, I'm in my late teens, I'm in my early 20s, and I still don't know how to do my makeup, and I'm afraid to learn because it's past the awkward stage. Let me say this. Makeup is like any creative hobby. You get better as you do it, so don't be afraid to start. Now that I've got my excess oil off, you want to make sure your skin is clean before you start. Now, this next part is preference. Some people like to use a moisturizer, some people don't before they start their makeup. That's how you feel about it. My skin has been dry lately, so I like to moisturize and use sunscreen. Now let's talk about makeup and acne. If you have cystic acne, I personally do not recommend putting makeup on top of it, especially if it hurts. It's better to leave it alone. However, I understand if there's an occasion, it is okay to put it on, but I don't necessarily always recommend doing that constantly because you're just going to clog up your pores more again. For the sake of today, do as I say, not as I do. So picking foundation. A lot of people get overwhelmed when they go shopping for makeup because they don't know what they're looking for. You do not need to buy a whole bunch of makeup to start. I want you to start learning little bits and pieces and slowly build up. Like all the makeup I have, I did not get that in a week. This is a collection of like 4 years now. So we have matte foundations, and then we have more like glowy, like just natural type looking foundations. Most foundations will tell you what kind of skin it's for. Like this is normal to dry, and this one is normal to oily skin. That's important to pay attention to as well. As far as concealers go, a lot of people like to get a shade lighter than their skin tone to brighten. But if you are just starting out and you don't plan on using foundation, if you are using a concealer that's close to your skin tone, you want it to blend seamlessly if you're not using foundation. So getting one that is your skin tone is the best idea. Now, if you don't have color corrector because you're just starting, you're going to take your concealer and we're just going to put, again, don't always recommend doing this, very carefully and lightly. We're just trying to kill off that redness right there. And I'm just going to do that on all my red spots. See, I've covered all, I just use my finger to blend that in. I always tell people when they're starting to either use their finger or use a sponge just because it's the easiest to get used to. Next, I'm going right in for those dark circles. And if you're doing the concealer a little bit before foundation, you want that to be very light. And see, I can just go in with my finger and I'm going to blend that all the way back. All the way up here. We're not going to stop harshly right under the eye. We're trying to make it as natural as possible, especially if we're only going to wear concealer. And you can even bring it down into your cheeks a little bit. We're just trying to avoid a line being created. And then this side, I'll use the sponge. The sponge is going to absorb some of the makeup, so sometimes that also helps with not creating a harsh line because you're not worrying about trying to drag all that product out to not be seen. But see, we have here, and we'll just bring a little bit of that down, make sure it gets all the way up. There we go. Now before we do our foundation, because we use some of that concealer, like a color corrector to get rid of that redness, you're going to take a little bit of a setting powder, and you can use any type of setting powder, whatever you prefer. And I'm just going right on top of those spots because I don't want them to lift when I go in and use the sponge to put down more foundation. Now, when picking your foundation, I found that a lot of my friends who have more oily skin like matte, you can always make matte foundation look more natural and more glowy. That's why I like it, because my skin is dry right now from trying a new acne medication, but it's normally oily. So if I use a non-matte foundation, a lot of times like my face looks sweaty, it looks oily by the end of the day. So that's why I prefer a matte foundation. I'm just putting a little dollop on my hand right here, easy peasy. And then I'm taking my sponge and I'm putting that much, and I'm just gonna go like this and just kind of put where I know I want a lot of coverage, and then I'm just going to work on blending that out. I always blend into the hairline. I don't blend towards the middle of my face because I don't want a bunch of product to get cakey in the middle. So I always try and pull that product back. When you are picking the color of your foundation, you should not shade match your hand. Look, well, I'm pale, but that doesn't really match my hand. Always shade match to your neck, because that's going to be the color that is going to be compared to your face. Especially if you don't have hair to hide your neck or anything, people are going to see the shade change. And see how that, like, even though it's a matte foundation, it's not taking away from my natural glow that much because of that moisturizer, because some of my skin's naturally oily. We'll see that in a second. And now that our base is down, we're taking that setting powder again and going really under the eyes, especially if you have eyes that tend to crease. Then I always go over the T-zone. I always go over my cheeks because they get really oily sometimes. At the top of my lip gets oily, and then at my chin here. And that usually pretty much, see, we took away a lot of that shine, but it still looks natural. If you have any more coloration that's popping out after that, you can even go back in with concealer again. Here's it in a different lighting. See, it matches my neck very clearly. I'm starting to get in a tan, so this might be a little bit too pale by the end of summer, but I also want to show you that foundation is almost never going to get rid of all your texture. If you have elevated acne, it's going to be very, very hard to actually fully hide that into the face unless you're packing on like pounds upon pounds of makeup. And if you're packing pounds of makeup on, it's probably going to make the acne worse too. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the first step of the makeup journey. Next, I'll be doing highlight, blush, and contour in the video. Just remember, you don't have to be able to learn everything right away. Start slow, build your way up, build skills, build a good base, because that complicated makeup comes in once you have a good foundation, and a lot of people always skip over that. And remember, research your products before you go to the store, because you will get so overwhelmed so quickly, and everything is a preference. There is trial and error. However, I got this at Target for like $10 because I'm cheap. You don't need to buy the expensive stuff first. De-influencing you. Anyway, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Bye!